From November of 2019 until November of 2020, I was able to save and invest $25,000. And no, my income wasn't $100,000 or $200,000 a year. In fact, $25,000 was about more than half of my income. Here's how I did it. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. On this channel, we talk about personal finance, cryptocurrency, trading, and sometimes some card tricks. In this video, I'm gonna tell you about how I was able to save and invest $25,000 in less than a year and how you can do it as well. I'm gonna do that by dividing the video into two parts. The first part being is the mindset shift that I had to go through in order to reach that goal. And the second part is gonna be the more practical strategy I followed in order to reach it. And maybe you can copy the same exact thing and do that as well. Both parts of this video are equally as important and they were both necessary for me to reach my goal, and they will probably be necessary for you if that is your goal as well. Starting with the first part, and that is shifting your mindset. Setting a budget for yourself or having a certain system that you follow in order to save and invest money is extremely important if you want to take control of your finances and become financially free. However, sometimes temptation kicks in and we start emotionally spending and buying things that we probably do not need. Here's where training your mind and shifting your perspective comes into play. Every time you find yourself in a situation where you're tempted to buy something that is probably not a need, I need you to ask yourself the following three questions. Of course, ask yourself these questions when you want to buy wants and not needs. Make sure you identify what your needs are versus your wants, and then proceed with the following. If what you want to buy is actually a want and not a need, start by asking yourself the first question, and that is, how many hours do I have to work in order to pay for this? I know this may sound like overkill, but hear me out. Every time you find yourself in front of something on your laptop or in the store and you feel like buying it, ask yourself, how many hours do I have to work in order to afford this? And is it worth it? You'd be surprised at how many times you would actually say it's definitely not worth it. Take my previous job, for example. I used to make about $30 per hour. After tax, it would be about $22 per hour. Now let's say I look at the new iPhone, which costs about $1,200, and I say, I want to buy it. Here's where I ask myself, how many hours do I have to work in order to afford it? So $22 an hour, the iPhone is about $1,200, which amounts to about 55 hours of work. And then I ask myself, is this iPhone worth me working about 1.5 weeks at my job, which I probably did not like? I didn't like much. So you have to do the same. Ask yourself every time you want to buy something which is expensive or even inexpensive, do I really need this, and is it worth the hours that I'm working in order to afford this? If the answer is yes, it is worth it, then go ahead and buy it by all means. If not, then don't. This is extremely helpful because when you think about it, not just in terms of money where you think this is cheap and this is expensive, when you think about it in terms of the hours you're working in order to make that money, then you'll definitely think twice. Because imagine trading 40 hours of your week for a phone. I mean, think about it. It's absurd. So yeah, that's the first question. Let's jump to the next question. The next question is one you might think you have the answer to, but I promise you, you don't. Ask yourself, can I afford this? You might be someone who's walking around the store and sees a $200 pair of shoes, and then you log onto your bank account, you see that you have $250, and you're like, sweet, I'm buying this, right? Wrong. A few years ago, I learned a rule that was life-changing to me, and I learned it right here on YouTube from the channel Minority Mindset. What this rule is, it's the rule of 5. What that means is that if you cannot buy 5 of something, you cannot afford 1 of it. Let me say that again. If you can't buy 5 of this, you can't afford 1 of it. There's a huge difference between things you can buy and things you can afford. Let's say you have $10,000 in your bank account right now. You can buy a $10,000 car, but you cannot actually afford a $10,000 car. You can actually afford a $2,000 car. Buying things that cost at max 1/5 of the money you have right now can be very helpful, and it can help you avoid overspending. It also can be the decision maker if you find yourself being in a situation where you can't decide whether you should buy this or not. Ask yourself, can I buy 5 of this? If yes, then you can afford this. If not, then you cannot afford this. Very simple, it's very helpful. It has definitely been life-changing to me. Every time I found myself in a situation where I wanted to buy something that I cannot buy 5 of, which basically means I cannot afford, I found myself a new way of making money in order for me to be able to afford buying this item. However, make sure you don't abuse this and start buying unnecessary things just because you can afford or you can buy 5 of it. The third question you should ask yourself before buying something is, will this make me any money? This is probably the most important of the bunch. If you want to buy something and you ask yourself, will this make me money? And the answer is yes, then you probably should buy it if the questions number 1 and number 2 are already in check. If the answer is no, this won't make you any money, you have to really make sure that this is actually worth it for you. I recommend, if you want to buy something, just give yourself 72 hours before buying it, and then if you feel like you really still want it, then buy it if you can afford it, aka if you can afford buying 5 of it. The whole point of this mindset shift is for you to become more disciplined and training your mind in order to look at things differently, just in order for you to save more and, more importantly, invest more money for your future. That way you can be financially free one day. Now, moving on to the exact system I use in order to save $25,000 in less than a year, you probably can use that system as well, so follow along. I'm gonna break down everything between how much I made, how much I spent, how much I saved, how much I invested. Now, in order to do that, you might be familiar with the system that I usually talk about on this channel. I've talked about it in this video, I don't know where it is. And it is the 50-30-20 rule. What that means is that I do not spend any more than 50% of my income. I save a minimum of 20% of my income, and I invest a minimum of 30% of my income. This is the 50-30-20 rule in a nutshell. So let's break down the numbers. As an entry-level engineer, I used to make $64,000 every year before taxes. After taxes, this number goes all the way down to $47,000, and then if we break this down further, I used to get paid $1,800 roughly every 2 weeks. Of those $1,800, I used to save 20%, which is equal to $360, and I used to invest 30%, which is equal to about $540. I followed this system somewhat strictly, and some month I was able to save and invest more, and some month I was spending more, so I saved and invested less. But all in all, I was able to save and invest 50%, because 30 plus 20 is 50%, which is almost $25,000 in 1 year. Also, a side note, when I saved up to $6,000, which is about 6 months worth of expenses to me, I stopped saving and I put the 20% into investing, because I personally am comfortable with saving up to 6 months worth of expenses and not anymore, because after that there's a huge opportunity cost, and I'd rather have my money work instead of just sit in my bank account. And also, if you're wondering what I invested that money in, it was mostly in cryptocurrency. Some of it was buying camera equipment for YouTube and buying playing cards, because I like playing cards, but other than that, it was mainly crypto. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is very exciting and amazing, and I'm pumped. So that's it for me. See you on the next one. Peace out.